Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 3 of the Black is Lit Book Club experience, brought to you by February 365 and myself, your host, Terra Little. To learn more about me, visit me online at terralittle.com. And to learn more about February 365 and the other amazing work we're doing, visit us online at February365.com. All right, I'm ready to get into chapters 21 through 31 of the Reformatory by Tananarive. So why don't you go ahead and take a few seconds to grab up everything you need, your drink, coffee, tea, wine, whatever it is, your copy of the book, your favorite blankie and pillow, and of course your thoughts, and join me back here in a couple of seconds and let's get into it. Okay? Okay. Okay, so section 5 of the book is aptly titled Hank Catcher. Got my index cards. All right, so, and that's exactly what ends up being the case in this section of the book. Basically, Boone, I think I said last episode, I talked about Boone having identified Bobby as having gifts. So he has communicated the fact that he has identified the fact that Bobby has gifts. It turns out that Boone has a background that includes um, family members who had certain gifts or who practiced certain dark arts or whatever. So Boone is not unfamiliar with the concept of spirits and wandering souls and ghosts and things of this nature and how to work with them. So, um, he has communicated the fact that he's identified that Bobby has gifts to Warden Haddock, and that has brought some unwanted attention onto Bobby. So yeah. Warden Haddock, we talked about this the last episode too, probably the first one as well. About the fact that this is a creepy man, right? He certainly has some dark secrets, and if you've done the reading, then you know what many of those secrets are. And there's a method to his madness, which is what it really completely is the fact that this man is mad mentally and probably emotionally as well, but certainly mentally unstable, um, which leads to his behaviors. So we know that there was a fire years ago at the Reformatory, which claimed the lives of several boys. And we know that there are haints or spirits wandering around the campus of the Reformatory. So we can probably put two and two together. You can as well, that the souls wandering around this Reformatory are those of the boys who lost their lives there for various reasons and under various circumstances. So we discussed the fact that Bobby is able to um, feel these souls. They're able to communicate to him. He's able to experience their experience in very physical ways. We've talked about that. So Boone has picked up on these things, these abilities, and has communicated those to Warden Haddock, who already having established some sort of plan that he intends to carry out um, on this campus as his life purpose, seemingly, has decided that Robert, and I think it's important to mention that during the time that Robert's been at the Reformatory, he's gone from referring to himself as Robbie to Robert, as if something inside, some fundamental part of him, has been changed as a result of having to be or having being at the Reformatory. So saying Robert now. Okay. So Warden Haddock, of course, um, coerces Robert into participating in this really, I guess, the only way I can describe it is diabolical plan that he intends to carry out on the campus and having to do with these souls. He lures Robert into participating in this plan by becoming a haint or ghost catcher. So Robert, when he sees the ghosts, is supposed to pass that information along to Boone, who has his own duties to carry out. It's a little system they have. If you've done the reading, then you know. Um, so Robert agrees to take on this task, this job, because Warden Haddock presents it to him in such a way that, you know, comes across as you'll receive, special privileges, and mainly being you'll be considered for early release. You do this for me, I'll do this for you. But it doesn't take Robert long to realize that the promise of early release is all the more farther away, and it's turned into help us catch Hanks regularly, frequently, or else suffer these heinous consequences for failing to do so. Um, so yeah, it's kind of bullied into doing it. Not so much anymore about being released early, but about being released at all. If this is not something that you're willing to help us do, maybe. So yeah, it's not as if he has the option of saying, "Yeah, I'll pass on that job." Never mind. No, thank you. That's not an option. So there's that scenario. Warden Haddock and Boone literally breathing down his neck to identify if he's seen any haints and where, what time, in this spot or that spot. That's that pressure. Or else, you didn't find us any haints today. If you don't find one by tomorrow, this, that, or the other may happen. And they're not good things. So there's that pressure. And then there's Blue, who, for up until this point in the story, has seemingly been a friendly presence, if not a little prankster. We do learn in this section of the book that Blue is several years younger than Robert, and also Robert's friend. Know why I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me in a moment. But I was thinking that Blue was a little older than his 7 or 8, I think, years old, apparently, that he is. So the immature pranks or whatever now make a little more sense. Um, but also his friendliness and playfulness throughout this portion of the text suddenly takes a shift, and Blue is now more cunning and manipulative. in his communications with Robert. So Robert has Warden, Haddock, and Boone on the one hand, who are pressuring him to carry out these tasks. And then he has Blue on the other hand, who is suddenly manipulative and conniving. And he's pressuring Robert in his own way as well, with the goal of preventing Robert from catching Hanks. So it's a kind of a damned if I do, damned if I don't situation for Robert. Six in one hand, half a dozen in the other, as my mom used to say. What do I do? All right, so that's where we are with Robert. As I had to take a water break real quick, I was starting to feel like I had a frog in my throat, and maybe that's because the story has me by the throat. I feel as if while I'm reading, there is a frog in my throat. That frog being anticipation. That's a little extra I'm being, but okay, whatever. I have water. Thank you. Anyway, on the home front, Gloria and Miss Lottie are steadily being harassed by local law enforcement. Um, they want to smoke out Robert Stevens Sr., maybe bring him back to town. They feel, I guess, like if they lean on his children hard enough or harass them um, badly enough, that he'll have no choice but to return and face whatever real and or imagined consequences, mostly imagined, that he deserves. So that's not working though. It appears, thankfully for his safety, but not so much for Gloria and Robert, who one thing after another seems to be what's going on. If you've read chapters 21 through 31, then you know the little details of the everyday life. But overall, at some point, Gloria, as most people would or will, if they're pushed to a certain point in their lives, they begin to feel like, what else is there to lose in my life? We already know that the kids, Gloria and Robert both, as well as Robert Stevens Sr., lost the kids' mom and his wife, Gloria's mom, Robbie's mom as well. She was lost to illness. They've essentially lost their father because he's, had been run out of town. So, and at some point, again, if you know, it gets to a point where Gloria is pretty much, well, what else have I to lose? And that, rather than sinking her farther or deeper or even into the beginning stages of feeling defeated, it kind of has the opposite effect and sort of empowers her, like triggers her in such a way that she begins to realize that, and readers, I think, also begin to see that little Gloria is not so different from her father and his beliefs and his, values as maybe she thought. And it's almost as if Miss Lottie and others around her have been waiting for that part of her. They've always like known it's there, just waiting for it to emerge, to show itself. So, but she kind of steps into it. She kind of steps into it um this go around. And it's kind of interesting to see where she'll go with it and what limits she'll push herself to. So yeah, I was kind of hoping in this section to get a little more. I know that we were done with the attorney. He had, done what he could do to assist and has since gone on to the next town, and that's over with, or so we think, as far as we know. I was just kind of hoping to get a little more information on not so much the case that he was working on in the next town over, or wherever he went in the state, but I was kind of hoping to get more on him. I I I I don't know that we've seen the last of him, um, but I was kind of hoping we get a little more follow up. Did they make it out of town safely? I'm assuming they did. Y- what? I don't know. So maybe that'll come up again later on. And then I do want to, because also as we've come along, Gloria has had some premonitions relative to some of the minor characters in the book. And I just kind of want to know when, where, and how those premonitions came to pass, if they have, and did she find out, or uh, Ruby McCollum being one premonition, like whatever happened. So I don't know if Tananarive do the author will revisit those points in the story or not, but it kind of left me a little curious. So anyway, that was just an aside. Sorry to get off track. Anyway, so Gloria is stepping into a more empowered role, and as a result, she hatches up a new plan of action. That's all I'm gonna say about that, because I don't want to get into revealing too much information about the plot, because that's the reading experience is um, a great one, so I don't want to spoil it any more than I possibly already have. Anyway, so but she hatches a new plan of action on a more revolutionary note. Um, she is able to finally have a visit with Robert at the Reformatory, and during that visit, which Miss Lottie was there as well too, so it was the three of them. But during that visit, she is able to communicate this new plan of action to Robert as well. So everybody's on the same page with what we're going to do next, how we're going to address what the hell is going on next. So that gets accomplished. Okay, got my little card too. And also, she discovers that she may have a new, she's surprised, to discover a new possible ally in Miss Hamilton, who is, if you remember, I think I mentioned her the last time. I don't know if I mentioned her by name, but the volunteer band teacher at the Reformatory who is working with Robert and Redbone, that's his friend, um, as members of the band at the Reformatory. And so Gloria and Miss Hamilton meet. Miss Hamilton makes a home visit just to kind of pass along news of Robert, how he's doing, and so on, so forth, express her concern. Um, it seems that she and Gloria develop a light kinship, and she ends up being a surprising possible ally in the efforts to help and assist Robert during his time there at the reformatory. Gloria ends up actually um, staying with Miss Hamilton for her safety, which is a little distance away from um, the area in which Miss Lottie and Gloria currently live. So that's one good thing that comes out of it. So we'll see how that goes and where that goes in the next, hunk of the text. So it's pretty much what's going on in this section of the text, chapters 21 through 31. Um, Bobby is a Hank catcher, and it's not, turning out to be the beneficial experience that he thought it could possibly be. So I'll be back in a few moments with my wrap up and final thoughts. See you then. Okay. Wrapping things up for chapters 21 through 31, my final thoughts mostly have to do with some things that I identified as I was reading this portion of the text. I did pick out another text connection that I made, and I hate to keep dwelling on the movie The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis and the cute little blonde kid at the time. But I was reminded of that movie. So it's kind of a text to media connection, maybe text to text if there was a book written prior to the movie. Maybe there was, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Text to media, text to text connection I identified in that, and mild spoiler alert, because I really think that just as I did in the last episode, many readers have probably come to this conclusion by this time. So I don't feel horrible in revealing that I was right. Like I said last episode, Blue is a ghost. Okay. Um really suspicious, but you could never put your finger on it. And I really love the way Tananarive do, the author. I feel weird. I keep saying her full name when I should just be saying the author. Anyway, the author wrote the scenes where Blue was, a character in said scene in such a way that you couldn't really know immediately that Blue wasn't apparent to everyone in the scene because he was so seamlessly included that you didn't know that not everyone could see him. It wasn't immediately evident or obvious. The same way, I think anyway, maybe it was obvious to you. And if it was, feel free to drop a comment. But it wasn't obvious to me in the movie The Sixth Sense that Bruce Willis, during the scenes when he was interacting with his wife, certainly during the scenes when he was interacting with Haley Osment, I think is the gentleman's name, um, that not everyone in the vicinity could see him. It was not immediately evident until hell the end of the movie, I guess, when he realizes himself that he's a ghost, that I realized it too. It's like, wow, damn. I kind of suspected it with Blue, but just like the writer of that script, the producers of whatever of that movie were able to pull it off and not make it so evident so you could have that aha moment. The author here, Tanana Redo, to me pulled a similar whammy on me in that I kind of thought, just mainly because he was so quiet all the time, sneaking up, and but then I thought, nah, because some people are just quiet like that, right? Um, the fact that she wrote his presence in the scenes so seamlessly into the interactions, it wasn't immediately obvious that the boy was a ghost. So here in this section, it's confirmed. And just like I said the last time, I figured that his story would be tragic, and it is. Um, but it hasn't fully revealed itself as well. So there's more to know about Blue. and his story. But we do discover that he too is one of the souls wandering around the campus. So, next connection, and spoiler alert, but I was right. In terms of Blue and this new calculating, cunning side of him, I don't particularly care for it. I'm a little disappointed, but I understand. I understand his reasoning. I understand why he's doing what he's doing. And I really, I agree really with it. So there's a conflict I'm having. I like what he's doing. I guess I don't like how he's doing it. I don't like that he's involving Bobby or Robert in it in the way that he is. So I understand, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. All right, so wrapping up, our next episode is going to be episode 4, and it's going to be the last section of the text, which will be chapters 32 through 43, I think. And that's the end of the book. So I'm excited. We have, if we're thinking about the plot diagram, so now we're at the point in the story where something is going to have to happen one way or the other. That cliffhanger. What will Robert decide to do? What will be the result of Gloria's new plan of action? What's going to be the fallout? It just everything is hanging in the balance. And so it's the cliffhanger moment, the climax, according to the plot diagram. So, our next episode of the Black is Lit Book Club Experience, brought to you by February 365 and myself, Terra Little, is set to upload and be available for your viewing pleasure on Sunday, February 4th, 2024. Again, Sunday, February 4th, 2024, chapters 32 through 43. The end is near. I'm excited. See you then. Thanks for joining us. Bye.